Hello there. Welcome to my channel Game 5D, in which I'm going to share exciting contents related to building immersive experiences and games. My name is Biswajit, and in this new tutorial series, we'll dive into the incredible world of VR development for the MetaQuest 2 using Unity3D. Whether you are a seasoned developer or just starting out, this series is designed to guide you through the process step by step. Before we kick things off, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright, before you begin, make sure you download the Oculus app from the stores for your phone and install it. Once you do, you need to sign into the Meta development account so that the app could recognize your profile. Once you do, you will land on the feed page, which will show you all the latest news and more apps to you. Then you have your store where you can see available apps like top selling, most popular ones. Then you would have your gallery where you could see all your synced media from your Quest device on your phone. And lastly, you have menu where you can see your profile and some other options. For now, we'll click on the MetaQuest button. Since I have my MetaQuest already paired in, I would just open up a new pairing connection. You have to enable Bluetooth, and in order to join, you have to allow new connection. Then you would see a list of devices that you can connect to, like all of them from our Meta. I have a MetaQuest 2, so I'll select that. And then you have to follow up with this setup. Like if you have already set up an avatar, you can customize them. It's not needed though, you can skip it. Also, it will automatically connect if you're lucky, otherwise you have to manually enter your pairing code just to connect to the app. It will take a second and it's really seamless. I'm glad what Meta has done with this Oculus app. Once done, you're good to go. Just close the screen and Meta will automatically sync the profile, everything from your phone onto the headset. Once the device is synced, you could see your battery status and also a way to cast your device screen onto it. But for now, we'll go into headset settings. Click on the developer mode option and we'll enable the debug mode to allow us to install our apps on the headset. You could also see advanced settings. In case if you need to reset your device or factory reset or update few of the settings, you can do that from the app here itself. And that's it. You have enabled developer options on a Quest. Alright, let's head over to Meta developer documentation. So the link to this documentation will be in the description below. Go to this link, click on the overview section, and there you would see the development process the Meta recommend us to follow. First, we have to set up our development environment, which we are going to do next. Then we need to make a simple build to verify that the development does indeed work and we don't get any errors while building the APK. In the following series, we are going to dive deep into Meta SDKs and the feature sets that Meta provides. Below that, you could see the ideal development cycle to create Meta apps and distribute it onto the Quest Lab app lab. Okay, let's head over to the requirement section to see what all requirements we need to have. First of all, we need to have a Meta device. I have a MetaQuest 2. Then you are going to need at least a 2 GHz processor system and 2 GB of RAM. But make sure you have at least 8 GB of RAM because you're going to run Unity on it. And as part of OS, you can have an Windows 10 or on Mac OS running Mac OS Sierra or anything higher than that. And finally, we're going to need Unity. So I do have Unity Hub downloaded. If you don't have Unity Hub yet, I'll make sure to leave it link to in the description below for you to download. Open up the Unity Hub, and from inside Unity Hub, we are going to install the editor that we need. So before you open Unity Hub, make sure you log in or have an Unity account. So let's head over to the documentation and see what version Meta recommends. So they recommend a minimum of 2021 LTS version. So anything higher than that would work. And in order to build the app, we need to have the Android build support module, the Android SDK, NDK, and OpenJDK. So let's go back to Unity Hub. So I have 2022.3 LTS installed, which is higher than 2021. You are allowed to install any of the LTS version above than that, but I would recommend get the latest LTS version to have the maximum support. And from installs, head over to install editor. Once you click on that, you could see all the available official releases for LTS version. You can get pre-releases as well. Head over to the add section and you could see all the modules that you can download. If you don't select the modules right now, it's okay, you can install it afterwards. Okay, once installed, let's open up a new project. So in the new project, you could see a few of the settings. On the top, you could see a drop down and it will show all the editor that you can create a new project in. Then you will have few of the templates installed and you have something to download. For this tutorial, I would recommend downloading the 3D URP core template and not the 3D core template, because URP is going to give us a scriptable rendering pipeline which we can modify to have a better looking rendering than the default render pipeline. Add a project name as per your wish, and then if you have a Unity Cloud account, you can use that to sync your code into Unity version system. I don't need one for this tutorial, so I'll just uncheck it and then hit create project. So for the very first time, if you're opening Unity, this process may take longer based on how powerful your system is, and because it's going to create all those files and cache it. I'll see you once the project opens up on my system. Okay, once you have Unity opened, you should see your URP scene preloaded. It should be called sample scene with a main camera, directional light, and a global volume component loaded already. Then you have in your project, you should see all the preloaded packages for the 3D URP scene. I recommend removing some of them because they can add a lot of bulk to your project and can increase project size. To do that, head over to Package Manager, and in project packages, you should see all the pre-built packages installed. You can select the ones to remove it, but the ones that have an attachment icon near to them, you cannot remove them. But the ones that don't have, you can hit remove, and that should be it. Okay, before we do anything, let me show you the legacy package we were using with version 57 of Oculus SDKs, and before that, it's called Oculus Integration SDK, and it's still available on Oculus page, but you should see it's marked as legacy, and the version that it's supposed to have, the latest one, is 57.0. You should see a note here mentioning that the SDK has been deprecated and is replaced by the Meta XR packages in Unity Package Manager from version 59 and above. Although one more thing I wanted to show you is kind of misunderstood by most of the tutorials I have seen on YouTube, that this package itself has introduced building blocks, and the building blocks is not or was not introduced in the new packages only. It was already introduced in this Oculus integration SDK. Although do note that it was experimental, so don't use them if you have an integration SDK installed and you are building a production build. Alright, let's head over to Unity Asset Store. Make sure you are logged in using your Unity profile and search for Meta XR utilities, which has been renamed to Meta XR Core. So search for Meta XR. You should see all the smaller components that Meta has given to us to download and use. So the first one that you would see is the Meta XR Core SDK, and followed by all the other sub-modules or sub-packages that you can download as per your need. I would have to say Meta has done a really good job understanding the complexity the Oculus integration package previously had. So it was kind of a mess. It was very hard to keep track of what components are in which folder, but yeah, kudos to Meta for separating them out. So you could find each of the individual features SDK here as well. But one thing I wanted to show you is this Meta XR all-in-one SDK. In case you need all the SDK together for the app you're building, you can get this package instead of downloading them one by one. And this package itself is going to auto-download all the separate modules once you import it into Unity. Let's head back and let's talk about the Meta Core SDK. So the Core SDK is the base SDK that each of the module is going to need. So it has all the core components and the features to serve as the base for each of your VR app. And for this particular tutorial, I would recommend you download only the core package so that your projects stay lean and not bulky with this additional package, which we are going to visit in the next episodes or in the next series one by one. Apart from that, you also going to need the XR interaction SDK, but not in this video. I'm going to show it in the subsequent videos. And just to show you the difference between the package features, what this contains. So it was the Meta Core SDK, as per the documentation, is similar to what we had in the VR folder in the Oculus integration package. So you would have install button there. I have opened Unity because I've already installed it. Once you do that, let's head over to Unity. Let's go into the package manager. In the package manager, you need to make sure you select My Assets from the project drop down. And based on how many assets you have, it may take some time to load. Search for Meta XR or Meta itself, and that should filter out all the Meta SDKs you might have added. You can see the Meta Core SDK doesn't have any dependencies to it, but the Meta all-in-one XR has all these dependencies that will get downloaded. So let's import Meta Core SDK. And once you hit import, it may take some time to download all the components, then serialize them and import them into a project. So this may take some time as well. Okay, once installed, you should see an analytics approval. You may allow it, I will deny. And then it would ask you to restart the editor because it's going to update the VR plugin. And OVR plugin is the plugin that Unity uses to talk to the OVR runtime in the VR headset. Alright, so by this time the Unity should re-import and restart. So this restart would be much more faster than the initial project opening because all of the files have been already cached. The only files that are needed to be cached are the new imported ones. Alright, so once you have installed and restarted Unity, verify that the MetaXR Core SDK is installed by going into In Project Assets. And you should see the MetaXR Core SDK installed. If in case it doesn't appear for you, make sure you re-import again and restart Unity. So once installed, let's see our project view. In the project folder, you should see under packages, there is a MetaXR Core SDK, as well as under assets, you should see an Oculus folder with an Oculus project config into it. Once click on that, you will see that it will ask you to change to Android platform. Let's fix that by going into build settings. Click on Android and click switch platform. If you don't see the Android platform here, make sure you have added the Android module along with the Android SDK, NDK and OpenJDK setup. Once you do that, open Unity and you should see the Android platform appearing for you to switch. Ideally, depending on the project size, the switch platform may take some time, but as we have a very new project, it shouldn't take that longer. And once the dialog or the progress dialog finished, still wait for a couple of seconds as there could be some possible background task going on. So you can see those background tasks on the right bottom. And it's better to wait for it to finish. Okay, so once compiled, you should see the project config showing up all the options because the scriptable asset has now compiled based on Android, and it has some settings that you can toggle to configure your Oculus builds, like for what SDK are you going to build. Then you have this individual group of tabs that you can visit, but most of the time you would be changing the general settings. Alright, so as I said earlier, so the MetaXR Core SDK still has the latest building blocks and Oculus tool button appearing like introduced. So you can click on the Oculus button to see 3 buttons like setup tool, platform, building blocks and the Oculus settings. You could still access those menus from the top menu as well. So the next thing we're going to do is to apply the recommended settings for the Meta SDK to work. So click on the project setup tool either from the Oculus button or from the top menu. Once you have it opened, it should open up the Oculus recommended settings to apply. So these settings are needed to be applied before you can build the APK. And so once you have it opened, you should see all these recommended settings as just the configuration, individual configuration we used to do in the player settings, but now they have combined it to a single window and making it much more easier to configure the SDK without having any errors. So hit fix all and that should fix all the issues first. It may take multiple fix buttons because some of the configurations needs to reload the editor, so it might not fix at the first go. So as you could see, it did not fix for me, so hit fix all again. That should do it. And once that's done, you could also verify that those have been fixed by going into console, and you should see console logs appearing from Oculus settings. Then if you have recommended settings, do apply them as well. And it also may take some time because it needs to change the player settings and reload the editor configurations. Alright, so once installed, head over to XR plugin management and make sure that the Oculus plugin has been installed and the Oculus is ticked on. You could also visit the Oculus submenu to see the type of settings that it already had. So this all has been done by the recommended settings, which again was a lot more easier to do. Alright, once you have visited all the settings, close this window and head over to the Meta XR Core SDK. But before showing that, let me show you what all components the Meta XR Core SDK contains. So if you go to the documentation and click on key terms, you should see the Meta XR Core SDK. And as per the definition, it contains the settings for controllers, the boundary system, spatial splash screen, mixed reality APIs, and pass-through scene along with special anchors. If you need some more information regarding what individual ones does, I'll make sure to leave a link in the description for you to look at. Alright, let's go back to Unity. Open up Meta XR Core SDK, head over to prefabs, and you should see a lot of prefabs appearing here. And the one that we need to start is the OVR camera rig. So click on it, and so there are two ways you can access this. So once you open it, you should see all the scripts on it. We will go into detail one by one in subsequent videos, but if you don't find it, just search for OVR camera rig. It may not appear at first because you have to select the correct filter and set it to all in order to appear. Also, there would be two files. One is from editor folder and one is from the prefab folder. Make sure you drag the prefab folder onto your hierarchy. And if you want to see where the positioning or where the placement of the prefab is in the project, make sure you select the OVR camera rig prefab, select the clear field, search field, and then you should see where it's at. Drag it to the hierarchy, delete the main camera from here. And the OVR camera manager is the main component for setting up your XR rig so that you can move your head around and the camera would follow. It also contains a few of the other components that we're going to look at in the next video, but the main one is on the root component. It's called the main script that's on the root component. It's called OVR manager. This is the main interface. Also, as I said, the OVR manager contains the reference to the same Oculus project config. And just to make sure that this is the same config, if I go back to the Oculus project config directly and hit, let's say, the checkbox, save it and go back to the OVR camera manager, and indeed it shows the same check mark. So if you ever have a lot of items and you don't find the OVR camera rig, so there's a quick way to do it by going through the assets and clicking on it. So in the OVR camera manager, you should see all the same options. Okay, before we move, I wanted to show you one of the main settings that you need to configure in the OVR manager before you build an app out, which is called the tracking type. So the tracking origin type should be set mostly to the floor level. You have different ones like eye level and stage level. So eye level is the one where once you start the application, it will automatically sync the level to be at your eye level. So it doesn't matter if you move up and down, it would always be at your eye level. The floor level takes your calibration of your Oculus when you set up your floor type and uses that to set the height of your app. But I have seen many people getting confused by, after even selecting the floor type, they normally set the relative translation in the OVR manager to 1 or something so that it will match the height, but that's completely wrong. you should make it to 0 because the Oculus app is smart enough to take up your calibrated height and use that as the floor level. And other than that, there are a lot of settings and we'll go one by one in depth in subsequent videos. But for now, once you have everything set up and it looks good, make sure you hit play just to confirm that there are no console errors or any settings that we might have forgot to add. Alright, it did play it fine for me. I don't see any console errors. So stop the play. There are another couple of settings that you need to do before you can build your project. So click on File, Build Settings and make sure you have your scene added into the scene window. And the texture compression set to ETC2 or ASTC. Both of them works for Android compression. Head over to player settings and in here we need to set the default company name. So give it your name, or if you have a company, make that your company name. I'll just make it Game5D as my channel name. And in the Android settings, head over to other settings and make sure in the graphic APIs you remove Vulkan, because Vulkan is not supported in Android yet. You only have OpenGLES. You can also select Auto Graphics API, but I prefer to have it explicitly defined. Then you have to set up your package name, and this is a string that normally follows your website if you have a website backwards. So just make it like com.your company name followed by your app name. And I normally add a test to the last so that the same package name doesn't get used. Like if I have to again release a package or APK with the same package name, I can just remove the test and I will have a unique package by default. Alright, and everything else, if you scroll down, is already done by those recommended settings. So again, fewer steps now with the newer Meta SDKs. Also, this publicity settings is what you're going to use to sign your APKs. So you have to generate a key store, and those key store password must be like kept private for you to create the file. Also, it also generated the manifest file, and the manifest file is needed for Oculus. And I will show you where the manifest file is generated. So if you go back to assets, click on plugins, there will be an Android folder, and inside that you should see an Android XML. So this is auto generated, and the main lines are these meta files that has been added by Oculus, and you could go into the file yourself if you want to learn more what are the different permissions or information that has been added into the meta into the Android manifest file for Meta Quest 2. Alright, once everything looks great, let's add an object to the scene so that we would have something to look at once we build our APK. Place a cube and move it in the Z axis in front of the camera, and you would see that the camera is right now at the same level as the cube. But once we build it, you should see that once you open the app, it will take that particular point as a floor, and it will automatically have it set up your height so that it doesn't appear in the same level as your eye level, because we have the floor tracking type set up. Alright, so select your device if you have. If you don't have, then just click build and give a location for the APK file to generate on. So I normally create a build folder inside my Unity project and name it whatever you want the app to be, and click on save. And this is crucial, as if I show you the documentation again based on the development workflow. So if you look at the number 2 or number 3, it says that you need to build first, and this is crucial to make sure that everything builds just fine. And if it does throw some errors, that means we need to reconfigure a few of the settings we might have missed. But if it builds fine, then that means the Oculus development for Unity is complete. Like all the configuration file is correctly set up and there are no errors, and you should be good to go for building the APKs. So I'll wait for some time to see if we have any errors or not. And I will see you once this progress bar is completed. Awesome, so I got the build out and it built successfully for me. So that means no errors there and we completed all the steps correctly. So if we got our APK, and before installing, let me show you another cool app that Meta has released recently. And it's called the Meta Quest Developer Hub. And this app is really cool because it contains a lot of unique features that we had to manually do previously. And you can see, like, you can connect your headset through Wi-Fi connection or through the cable. It also allows you to disable proximity sensors and boundaries, the Guardian, while you're testing it. So that the testing will be non-interrupted, because most of the times the boundary does appear near to your table or wherever your workstation is. So that's really nifty and really good feature to have. We can also wirelessly debug our device and see the logs. We can also capture screenshots and videos. This is the best one to deploy apps directly onto the headset from your computer. And we can also upload our app from the developer dashboard to the store. So just go through this documentation link. And if you have a Windows machine, there is another cool app that you could use to streamline your development journey really fast, which is called the Quest link. And this is the documentation page for it, and it mentions all the steps to how to set it up. And the main thing it allows you to do is that you connect your device to your computer, and when you hit play on your editor, it directly runs the application on your Quest. Although it doesn't build it, it still runs it on the desktop, but it shows the application on the headset so that you can reiterate quickly and debug. I'll make sure to leave a link of this as well. If you have a Windows machine, you can take advantage of that. Alright, so let's install the Meta Quest Developer Hub. I have a Mac machine, so I'll download the Mac version. And since this is really early version of it, so it contains a lot of improvement and bug fixes, to keep an eye on that. So it may contain a lot of bugs and improvements throughout the releases. Current version is 4.3.0. So yeah, once installed, I'll open up the Meta Quest Developer Hub. And for me, it did not ask me to sign in because I already did. If you are new and you're opening it newly, you have to again sign it through the Meta developer account, and it should show up the same menu as of now. Once you are here, from the main from the left panel, select the device manager, and connect your headset, and it should appear. This is really well done based on the user experience and the design of it. So you could see all the available options here. Once you connect, you could see the name of your device, as well as there is an nifty section where you can see the APKs that you have installed. And these are the options that were mentioned in the documentation, like you can cast your device from here. Again, it's in beta. Then you can open up a link in the MetaQuest webpage and a lot of other stuffs. I'll leave it up to you to look at. And it also contains an ADB command. Now it's as simple as just drag and drop onto the area, and it shows you two channels. One is release channels if you have a distribution line set up, or you can install it on the Quest. Do note though, it will override all the previously installed same package name. Earlier we had to manually uninstall and then install it, but it overrides now. So it's again a good thing you may want to have. Alright, once installed, let me put up my Quest headset and I'll show you how the app looks from the Quest. Alright, I got the Quest working, and you could see my screen cast from the Quest. So open up the app, on the drop down select unknown sources, because remember we don't have this epic as signed and it's not from a verified developer and not from the store either, so it will appear on the unknown sources. Open the app and you should see made with the Unity logo, and there you go. Now you could see our cube floating in the floating above, but notice one thing, that our cube is not at our eye level but rather somewhere below, and because our Quest is taking up our height already mapped from a calibration. That's it, we made our application run on Quest. Alright, and this is how you set up your first Meta XR SDK for development within Unity3D. I hope you found this video really helpful and insightful, and if you really enjoyed this tutorial and you're eager to learn more VR development content, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, as that will help me a lot and help this channel to grow. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with all of our upcoming tutorials. And trust me, you don't want to miss what I have planned for this channel. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Keep coding, keep creating, and I'll catch you in the next GameFighter tutorial. Happy developing.